mamas who love inspiring healthy living.
We left our corporate jobs to team up and help other moms thrive, not just survive. What if feeling awesome every day is possible for you and your family?
We're so excited you're here. Come along with us on our natural journey.
Oh, hi, I'm Robyn.
And I'm Julie.
And welcome to our podcast number 9.
We think.
Untitled.
I
think it should be called Stories or Moms That Empowered Themselves, because that our title is Helping Mommas Thrive. And it's all about empowering them to take charge of their health. So this is a healing story where a mama took charge of her son's health and her health.
That's very true.
So I want to call it Healing Stories. That's the working title.
Yay. So we want to welcome our guest.
Our first guest.
Yes, you're our first guest.
Sojaila LoPresto.
Yay! Awesome.
Thank you for coming, Sojaila.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So Sojaila's story is so great, especially since, we all grew up knowing how to fly in an airplane. And when you're supposed to put your oxygen mask on first, there's a reason. And so her story is sort of like that. And so I don't want to really mess it up. So we want Sojaila to tell the story.
Yes.
So Sojaila, would you mind sharing how you started with natural health and what was going on with your son and you, and then how you started working on the healing process?
Sure. No problem. So first of all, hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sojaila LoPresto. And my health journey, started since I was very much young. I grew up in Venezuela, originally from there. And I used to get these headaches all the time, every single day. I would wake up with a headache, go to bed with a headache. I just lived like that. I thought they were normal. They were my normal everyday headaches, which knowing what I know now, I know that's not normal. There's nothing normal about it. Just because you have something every day and you're just used to it doesn't mean that is normal or that it should be there. But in my family, my mother had headaches, my sister had headaches, everybody had headaches. So I thought that was normal. And the only time I would get concerned would be the times that I would get a huge migraine, which was about 2 times a week, which is still not okay. I would get migraines 2 to 3 times a week. And that's when I would consider it to have a big headache. But the normal everyday headache, that was just almost like a given. So I grew up like that. I grew up that if I would get a migraine, I would just take a medication to help kind of ease the pain a little bit and then just go. So I grew up like that, and that was my normal. Came here to the United States, still the same thing. I still went to doctors here because everybody told me no, the doctors here are better, and they have all these machines and all these tests that they can do, and they can figure out what's happening. So I went to the doctors here. By that time, I started developing seizures, and the type of seizures that I had were the type that I could be talking to you and I would just faint, have a seizure, and then get up and then be out of commission the rest of the day. So that got me concerned. So I went to medical doctors. They did all sorts of tests, blood tests, scans. They put electrodes on my head to see if something was wrong. And they couldn't find anything wrong with me. They literally were like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly healthy. Here's this medication and take it and let's see. Okay, so the medication was making it worse, made it that I was having seizures every single day. And then that was just awful. So I decided to stop the meds because I said, forget it. I'm not going to continue like this. So I stopped the medication and I just continued just living my life like what I thought was normal. With the headaches and, having the seizures whenever they decided to come in. And then I got pregnant, had my beautiful baby boy, love him to death. I really wanted to have him. And, I was so excited. But the problem was with him, once I had him, he kept waking up every 2 hours. Okay. And I know at the beginning, a brand new born, like you kind of expect that. But after 3 months, 4 months, he kept waking up every 2 hours. And that made it so I wasn't sleeping. And that made it also, that increased, of course, stress. And that made then the seizures worse. That made the headaches worse. The migraines that used to be 2 to 3 times a week, it ended up being 4 times a week, really bad. At one point, and I took my son to the doctor and they said, that's perfectly normal. You just have to let him cry, which is awful. I don't recommend anybody doing that. I did that one night and I was like, this is crazy. I can't do that to him. But he was still waking up, whether he slept with me in the bed, whether he slept by himself, it didn't matter. He would wake up every 2 hours. He did that for almost 2 years. And it was every 2 hours. And I mean, it came a point I was literally begging, talking to him, like he had control almost over it. I'm like, please, for the love of God, just give me 4 hours, just 4 hours. That's all I ask. Finally, he started sleeping 4 hours, which at that point I said, well, I should have asked for 6, but that's okay. That's okay. I said, totally fine. 4 hours is good. He kept waking up. I kept taking him to doctors. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. He started having ear infections after ear infections. Things were not getting better. So he was being miserable. I was being miserable because, again, the headaches and the migraines, I still had to go to work. I still had to do things. And then at one point, I took my son to the doctor for his regular checkup. He got vaccinated. He had a huge reaction. Doctors wouldn't admit that that had anything to do with it. But right after that, he started developing asthma. The ear infections got worse to the point that we had to put ear tubes in his ears. The asthma that he had, he kept getting worse and worse and worse. We kept changing the way he was eating. We started eliminating things. Things were going crazy to the point that he was on 2 oral steroids plus the inhaler. At one point, he had 3 surgeries for ear tubes in his ears. He was not getting better. He couldn't, at one point, he would be playing with me. This was at age 4. He was playing with me and he did like a little lap around the sofa. And he started like gasping for air and touching his chest. And he's like, Mommy, can you please help me breathe? And when he said that to me, I started crying. I'm like, honey, if I could do anything, I would. I just don't know what else to do because the doctors weren't helping. Other people weren't helping. And at that point, I prayed so hard. I was like, please, God, send me somebody that can help me because I don't know what else to do. I'm doing everything that the traditional doctors told me to do. It wasn't working for him. It never worked for me either. And it came a point that then, what?
Can I interrupt you for a second and ask you a question? How old was he when he had the vaccine injury and that going into the asthma?
He was, I believe, it was with the first MMR vaccine. So I believe it was 3. That's with his well visit at 3 years old. And after that, it just went like this. It went down. I mean, I knew he had issues with the not sleeping part before, but after that, it just went downhill really fast, really, really fast. To the point that, again, by age 4, I was really concerned because he wasn't growing. The steroids was not letting him grow like the rest of the kids. He was super hyperactive. He was just, I mean, not doing well, super hyperactive, but at the same time, he couldn't release that because he couldn't breathe. So if he would overexert himself, he couldn't breathe. So it was all that pent up energy. He got moody because of the steroid drugs. I mean, that plus having a mom that was not doing well either, because again, I had my normal headaches plus the migraines. When you're in pain, just bending down to pick up something, it's excruciating. So he would spill water And to me, that would be like the most awful thing he could do. So I would be like, don't do that. So imagine telling a little kid, don't spill anything. That's just not who says that, you know? So I felt horrible too, because I felt like, man, I'm failing as a mom because I know I'm not supposed to act this way, but I wasn't healthy. He wasn't healthy. It was just battle around. So I prayed really hard. Finally, I found a natural doctor, Dr. Lisa Palmer, and I went there to see if they could help me. At the moment when I went there thinking of my son. I went there thinking, what can somebody do for him? Because again, at this point, I thought that what I had was normal. I thought that I just had to live with it. That's what everybody told me, learn to live with it. So I did. And when I went there, we were able to find the root cause with natural therapies. And we were able to detox, at Palmer Natural Health, we were able to detox the heavy metal toxicity that he had in his lungs. He had mercury, plus a lot of other heavy metals that got stuck in his lungs. We had to change the food he was eating. We had to change a lot of stuff. But when we were looking at his health profile, all of a sudden, Dr. Lisa Palmer asked me, well, how about you? What are you doing? And I said, well, my headaches are normal. My seizures are normal. And then she actually helped me start thinking of what happens if I have a seizure while I'm driving and he's in the car. And I was like, man, that would be really bad, because when you have a seizure, I would lose consciousness. So it was a very bad time in my life. So I started looking at me as well. And I ended up also taking charge of my own health by figuring out what was wrong with me. And what was wrong with me was I had also heavy metal toxicity in my brain. I had to detox. I had mercury, aluminum, plus a bunch of other heavy metals in my brain. I also have some parasitic issues going on with me. And my food was horrendous. I used to eat sugar every day. I mean, it was bad. I used to eat really, really bad too. And I started cleaning all that up. I took charge of that. I said, okay, if I want him to be okay, he deserves to have a mom to also be okay. So I started taking charge and learning more about nutrition and natural health therapies and things like that. So by detoxing all the heavy metals and everything, I started feeling better, to the point that my normal everyday headaches became not every day. They started spacing out. No more migraines, no more seizures. To the point now, I mean, that was back in 2011 when I started. And now it's been about 10 years, no headaches, no seizures, no migraines, nothing. Okay, so it's awesome. And Dominic, that's my son, when we started with his detoxing, I mean, he was 4 years old, so he was little. Within 3 months, that boy did such a switch and such a change that I was like, okay, this is what we need to do. This, no matter what anybody else says, even though some people said, you're being crazy, that's not the good way to do it. Those people don't know what they're doing. Those are quacks, whatever. You know what? Nobody else could help me. They helped me. And they helped Dominic, which was, again, for me, the main thing, and making sure that I was okay so then I could be a good mom. I mean, he started changing so much that he started being in the running club at school, which was awesome. So he went from not being able to run around the sofa to being in the running club to then doing 1 mile in 8 minutes, which, believe me, I mean, I have video of that, and I was crying when he crossed that finish line. I was like, and it was, the funniest thing is that he would tell me, like, Mom, why do you cry every time I go past the finish line? And I'm like, buddy, you don't understand.
Yeah, great.
It is such a joy for me to see him run and do things like a normal kid. Because again, I didn't even know if he could do that. And also another part that this also stick to me a lot was that's why I encourage moms to really take charge of your own health. Don't just go with what traditional medicine tells you really research and go to the natural places because, we're able to help, is because when I started detoxing and getting better, and I wasn't having the normal everyday headaches anymore, at one point, Dominic was helping me bring some glasses from the table to the kitchen, and he spilled some water. And when he spilled the water, I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's fine. And he looked at me, he's like, I'm sorry, mommy, I'm sorry. Like he got all nervous. And I looked, it's okay, buddy, it's just water. And he looked at me like he went from being very nervous. And he looked at me, he's like, what? And I go, it's okay, we'll clean it up. It's like, it's just water. And he looked at me, he goes, you're not mad at me? And I'm like, buddy, it's just water. And he's like, what's wrong? And I go, what do you mean what's wrong? I'm like, everything's fine. And he goes, you're being nice. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I didn't even realize that I was being mean before over spilled water until I wasn't mean. And I was like, it's just water on a tile floor. Okay, so it's like, who cares? Okay. So I was able to clean it up. And I told him, I said, I'm so sorry before I was mean. It's just mommy had a headache. It was bad. Like, I'm no longer doing that because mommy's taking care of herself. We'll make sure that you're okay. And again, now he's like moving forward. Now he's 16. He's a teenager, normal teenager. And the beauty is that because I took care of myself, I was able to also teach him how to take care of himself. And now I use not only natural supplementation, homeopathics, but I also use the essential oils to help. And I've taught him that too. So when he goes to school, sometimes he gets nervous. He has a little bit of test anxiety and things like that. And he has his little stress away roll-on that he uses. And he goes ahead and he puts it on. And of course, he's 16, so he cannot let anybody see him do that. So you see him, he does it at home, but nobody can tell. So it's actually quite funny. Or if he starts getting a cold or something, so then he actually asks for his supplements and he asks for the diffuser. He's like, Mom, can we get that diffuser? Can I get some thieves? Like he knows what to do because, I've been able to take care of myself and been able to give that to him too. So then he can do the same thing. And he even tells some of his personal friends like, hey, instead of doing this medication, why don't you try this? Like, wow. This really helps. And sometimes he shares his stress away with some of his friends and things like that. So it is funny sometimes to watch him because he doesn't want people to know, but at the same time he does. So it's like a weird, again, at 16, that's what you do.
The teens are so hard, but they know when you brought them, like they don't want to admit that some of it works, but when they're in need of it, they'll take it, and they want to help. So that's really nice. So one thing that I love about your story is there's just like that moment that we talk about, like there's the moment of desperation where you would try anything to help your son. But then when you met Dr. Palmer, it's then that you decided to like help yourself. Because like so many moms out there are suffering. They put their kids first, which we are moms. And a lot of times we put ourselves last, especially in the autism community. I meet a lot of moms who are so stressed, strung out, and they don't take care of themselves. And I just feel like that point in your story is just so impactful that Dr. Palmer was able to do that for you. And you can see that and you trusted her and you're like, oh, she's right. And look where you are today, Sojaila. Like, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's super. As a mom, especially a single mom, you have that huge responsibility of, oh my goodness, I have to give. But the problem is if you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't give anything because you don't have it. So, and the kids, you could talk all you want, but they watch what you do. So if you want them to be okay, you need to be the example first. Also, by doing that, then you're able to also help them out. Because can you imagine me having him be healthy, but then still yelling at him and not doing well, not being able to go to his runs because I'm in bed because I can't get up because I have a migraine, or because I had a seizure, or God forbid I have a seizure while driving, like the example Dr. Palmer said. I mean, could be anything like that. So that's why it is super important to first take care of yourself, and that way then you can take care of your child. And you could do both. That's totally fine. You could do both at the same time. That's what I did. And I mean, the proof is he actually saw me changing also my food choices. He was changing his food choices. We were working together through all this process. And he actually, he saw the example. So that way now, even I could say whatever, he saw it. He knows this works because he saw it. He saw me how I was before, how I am now. And to that point that sometimes if I get too stressed out or something, he tells me, he's like, you need an oil or you need a supplement. Like, he tells me that. So it's amazing. So that's why I always encourage moms to yes, it's good to take care of your kids, but at the same time, you have to take that time for you, because if not, then you cannot help to the best of your ability if you're not okay.
That's right.
Because, you cannot give 100% if you're not 100%.
That's right. So do you want to tell everyone what you're doing now? Like how this kind of changed the trajectory of, what you do for a living? And
Sure. So back when all this was happening, I was doing massage therapy, love massage therapy. But then after learning and, figuring out what was wrong with me and everything, I decided to do something called quantum nutrition testing. It's a form of muscle testing. And I decided to do that because that was what helped me. And I said, well, if it helped me, it can help other people too. And I really do believe that the more people that do this, the better, because that way more people have access to it. I wish I would have known about this before I even got pregnant. Okay, that would have been so much better. Okay, we would have been able to make sure that my son was sleeping through the night and make sure everything else, get me healthy before I got pregnant, but I didn't know. So once I got better, I decided, you know what? This is what I want to do now for a living. So I went back to school. I studied this. I was able to get with Palmer Natural Health. And now I'm a practitioner there, and I'm helping other moms, other people get better. So that way they can now have their journey and do what they need to do, whatever that is for you. And now I share natural healthcare with others to be able to detox. Most people is parasites, heavy metals, that was causing the main issue. Could be other things too. And I love educating people too. So I love teaching. So that way other people can learn, because I truly believe if a mom knows and have all the information, then that mother can make a good decision for their kid, whatever that is. You have to have the information. So we have helped a lot of women be able to detox their body, so that way when they get pregnant, they have a healthy baby. And these babies are sleeping through the night right away. These babies are doing really good and big. And I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing what we can accomplish.
So Hyla is one of the practitioners that sees Jonathan, my son, and you are a master at your craft for sure, Sojaila. And it's not just, it's not just figuring out the muscle testing, it's listening, it's the rapport with the practitioner and the patient. Sojaila really listens. And even like she sees my mom, she gives her homework assignments, there's a lot of things that, that go into what you do. Sojaila, and you're so good at it. And Palmer Natural Health, I'm sure Dr. Palmer is very thankful for you and what you do for that organization. Mm-hmm. I know I'm thankful for what you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love what to do. I love sharing health and information. And I And I love using anything that is natural that is going to help the person. So we use the oils, we use supplementation, we use herbs, whatever it is, so the person can get well. So I appreciate you guys too, because you guys have taught me so much with the oils that I'm like, oh man, I can use that oil. That's awesome. And I can do this. I mean, the stress away have been phenomenal for me and my son, and the thieves. I mean, I'm in love with thieves. It's
in her vacuum cleaner.
Oh, that's so smart.
I know. I thought that was so smart.
Yeah, that is really good. Yes, we have Stress Away in back behind there with a little extra vanilla.
I love when that happens, because then it smells like sugar cookie and you don't have to eat it.
Right.
Smell it, you know?
good.
Right?
So good.
I know. Well, so Sojaila, you know, what would you say to a mom who had never been exposed to anything natural, and they're just, you know, it's scary, like they don't understand the homeopathics and the herbs, and they've only had mainstream, like the traditional medical system. So if you met somebody like that, what would you say to them to actually open the door for natural health?
Well, I would say what I thought at the moment, okay, when I was in that traditional versus natural. My thought process was, what I'm doing is obviously not working because nobody's getting better. I wasn't getting better. He wasn't getting better. So what I was doing was not working. And the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing, expecting a different result. Like if I continue to go down that path, it wasn't getting better. It was actually getting worse. And I just said, you know what? We got to do something else. And even though I didn't know, I mean, the only thing I knew about natural therapy was massage, which is very, very tiny compared to what we know now. Okay. And like when I compare the two and I go, you know what, this isn't working. It's getting worse. This other side, what is the other side giving me? It's giving me food. It's giving me earth, things that are coming from the earth that are natural. What's the worst thing that can happen if I try it? Okay, that was truly my thought process. Like, I'm going down this other path that is not working, it's going really bad. If I try this and it doesn't work, the worst thing that can happen is I ate extra vegetables and I had extra supplementation and vitamins. That's the worst thing that could happen. Okay. So I just had extra vitamins. Okay. And I in my thought process of the moment was, it may not work. And if it doesn't work well, I just had extra supplementation and then we're going to have to try something else. But what I was doing was not working. So it was time to try something different. And when I tried the natural therapy, it was just like, you know, it worked so fast. And again, if you're thinking of kids, the younger the kid, the better. Kids respond so fast. It's amazing how fast kids get better. Adults, it takes us a little longer. Okay, we've been in this earth a little longer and more polluted, and sometimes we're stubborn too. We don't want to change the way we eat or whatever. Okay, so the change may be a little, the symptoms getting better may be a little slower, but you do feel the difference. And again, all you're doing is you're putting in your body something that comes from the earth, little extra vitamins and minerals. You can't go wrong. Like there's no side effects. There's no nothing like that. You're just putting extra vitamins in your system. So there's nothing to lose, a lot to gain. That was my philosophy at the moment. It's like 0 to lose, a lot to gain. And if it doesn't work, okay, it didn't work. You just had more vitamins that month or whatever. Okay.
Another thing I just wanted to touch on that you said was, you know, sometimes adults take a little longer because, you know, we didn't just get that problem overnight. And I know, you know, sometimes when Julie and I are working with people, people are like, well, I tried this oil and it didn't work. Or You know what I'm saying? And I know people do that in the muscle testing world too. Or take for me, like I've been a patient at Palmer Natural Health for 2 years. It takes a long time. Like I have a lot of heavy metals, and I always say it's like peeling back the onion, right? The layers of healing. So, do you find that there's a range of healing, and what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it does take time. So for some people, it's super fast. It also depends on lifestyle, where they grow up, how much toxicity have they been exposed to. It depends on a lot of things. Okay, so for example, for me, it took a while, but I had those normal headaches since I was little, and I didn't. I was in my 30s when I started the natural therapy. So I had a good 30 years head start on poisoning my body pretty much. Okay. And when I mean poisoning, I mean not just with medications or vaccinations or what have you. I'm talking about also the food that I was eating. And when I came from Venezuela to here, the government here, when I was doing my immigration paperwork, they didn't accept my vaccinations from Venezuela, so they had to redo them here. So that cost even extra stuff. So believe me, it was a lot of different things that I got exposed to. My dad, growing up, he used to work with swimming pools and all that, and he used to have like a shed in the backyard of my house with a lot of like chlorine and acid and all this stuff, because that was his business. And again, back then, like they were in containers, but you could still smell it. You could still, so I was exposed to all this chemicals that it took a while for me. But even for me, a while, I started seeing differences in my symptoms. Within 6 months, I started seeing differences, and it took a whole year to completely, like, for them not to come back. But again, I also listened, and I make sure I was doing changes in lifestyle, changes in food. I'm still doing changes in food. I still, I love sugar. It's one of the things I still work on that. Okay. I'm not perfect. Not by far. I'm not perfect, but I am so much better than where I was before. So, yeah. And that's the key. You just little by little, those little good things that you're doing every day, after a while they accumulate, and then they're good, and then you can transform your whole body, because your body changes, and you have a whole new body after 7 years. You have completely a new body, so you can rebuild it. So
I think you said another amazing point, because people get frustrated if they don't get the results that their goal is, whatever that is. For you, it was healing the seizure, but there's a way to look at it from a mindset approach. Like I used to eat sugar 50 times a week, and now I'm eating sugar only 10 times a week. Maybe I still have some symptoms, but look where I've come from, right? Yep. I even say that in my videos too, right? Yeah. I mean, I used to have headaches 3 weeks out of the month, 56 allergy shots. I mean, I'm still working on my healing, but look where I've come from. Holy moly.
Yeah.
And so if the people who are listening to this or watching this are already on their health journey, I just encourage them to look at the positive and where they've come from. Even if, even just changing, like you're not going to get the cup of coffee every day, not organic coffee, but the local lattes and the sugar and the syrups. And maybe you were going there 7 days a week, and maybe you're going there 3 or 1, or like look at something just positive like that in small steps,
That's really good. And I also love that you broke the cycle. And I think this is what is so cool about, uncovering this natural world that works so well, is that you've influenced your son, and then now you're influencing patients all over the world and friends and family. And it's like that ripple effect is so extreme from someone who has, you could have kept going down the road and just accepted, the things, but God intervened, was like, no, I have a path for you, and you're going to influence all these people. And I think that's absolutely huge. And I love that because we need for the next generation to understand what's really at stake here. I mean, they need to have these tools and have the knowledge so they can help themselves and other people.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm super proud of my son too, because at the beginning he used to argue with me about it. Now sometimes he still he goes like, oh, I need to take this. And I go, well, you don't have to take it. But if you want to get well, it's up to you. And then he goes, okay, so he takes it. But I also think that's more like the teenage, like he has to say something. Because if I'm not looking, he goes and he gets it. So I'm like, okay. But another thing is that I love a lot is that when I'm sharing the information, it's not just with my family. Not just with my son, but I was also able to influence my parents. Because believe me, to get that generation to see that the doctor's not the God, okay, that was hard to do. and once they saw that my son got better and that I got better and that I was helping other people get better, then my dad, who was going down a very bad path of Alzheimer's, and my mom was also going down a very bad path with other lung issues. They finally said, okay, what can you do for us? And I started helping them. And that was 5 years ago when they started with me as patients or clients. And we were able to detox. And my mom now is breathing much better. And my dad, the Alzheimer's that he had, that it was pretty bad 6 years ago, now, December of last year, he went to the neurologist and the neurologist said, I don't need to see you anymore. It's like you don't have it anymore, which I was shocked that the doctor said that. Because they don't admit a thing. So the doctor said, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. And he has to take a lot of supplements and he has to do a lot of changes, but he's doing better, which the other route was actually causing him to be worse. So, it takes time. Again, this was 6 years, but he has his mind. They live on their own. Okay. They don't need assistance. He goes to work. He does everything. And he's 6 years older and he's doing better than before. Yeah. So that's, to me, that's like, if a mom can take charge of their own health, they can just expand and then help and influence so many other people. So
that's awesome.
That is huge because that generation is really, really hard. Yeah. So I applaud you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, it's amazing. I know my mom, she's always like, don't get really excited, but this thing just works.
I'm glad she said that. That's good.
Yeah, especially when it's an oil versus like a supplement, she'll be like, I have to tell you something. Or, inflammation, the hand thing for her, Yeah. She literally, she takes the supplement, she can open her hand. She doesn't take the supplement, she cannot open her hand. It's really that, not all supplements have like a cause effect like that. Or for that particular one for her, it's like the magic.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's amazing. Great. Anyway, so we probably need to wrap it up. Yeah. So Sojaila, thank you so much for being our first guest.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. And thank you for doing things like this, because I really think that more people need to know about it so that they can do natural things. They can do the oils, they can do natural therapies. And I admire you guys too for always sharing information.
Oh, thank you. So if you want to contact Sojaila, you can find Palmer Natural Health online or call them or you can message us and we'll give you her number. Not personal number, the phone, the business number.
Yeah. Well, they can call the office at 407-682-8444.
There you go.
That way then they can, ask for me.
You don't have to live locally. They do telehealth, so you can work with them anywhere around the world, like Julie was saying.
Yep.
Thank you. Hearts to Sojaila.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.